Welcome back to Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, the podcast. In this solo episode, I am going to introduce to you the series for the next 5 weeks. And the series is going to be called Rewiring Trauma, Healing the Brain Body Connection. All right. So if you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new, thank you for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life podcast, where we transform your mind so that you can transform your life. I'm your host, trauma recovery coach, Myrna Young. And I want, as I said, to introduce a brand new series because this series is deeply personal, it's incredibly powerful, and honestly, it is long overdue. So, have you ever asked yourself, why do I still feel anxious even when everything else seems fine? Why does my body react before my mind catches up? Why do I keep repeating patterns I know aren't serving me? What if I told you it is not just your mind, it is in your body? So, the core message today is trauma lives in the body. You've heard me say this several times on the show. I love this quote. Your issues are in your tissues, all of them. All right. So, for many of us, trauma isn't something that happened to us in the past. It is something that's still living in our nervous system. It shows up as chronic stress, anxiety, emotional triggers, fatigue, or physical illness. One of the first episodes I had on trauma on this show is about this gentleman that was talking about autoimmune diseases that came from trauma. Yes, you can trace back most of your autoimmune diseases and your chronic illnesses to the issues in your tissues. And those issues are placed there by your trauma. The truth is, you can't think your way out of something your body is still holding on to. You've got to do more work. I love saying, change the way you think about a thing, and the thing you think of will change. And yes, that has worked for me to rewire my mind and rewire my thinking. But who knows? The trauma might still be in my tissues. All right. But here's the good news. If trauma can be wired into your brain and body, it can be rewired. Just how it got in, it can come out. So let me share a personal story with you about one of my many traumas, right? If you're one of my Transformers tribe, you know my personal story about my childhood abuse. But that was 50 years ago. And like I said, hopefully I'm healed from that trauma. But who knows what's in my tissues? I do get triggered sometimes. I don't know where the trigger is coming from. But I think I'm mostly healed from that childhood trauma. But about 15 years ago, I adopted 3 kids from the foster care system. 2 of them were twin girls. My husband and my biological daughter loved these girls. We showered, love and presents and all kinds of things on them because they were cute. Who doesn't like twins? Who doesn't like girls? Who doesn't like cuteness? Cuteness overload. Family loved them. Everybody in the church loved them. They wanted for nothing. But when these girls got to 14 years old, they searched for their biological mom on Facebook and found her. They found her, and one of the first things they did is decided that I want to go live with her. So they started running away. And it was a very, very painful time for me. My nervous system registered and recorded rejection. And I thought everyone was saying that they were running away because they were being hurt and abused. Listen, I would crawl up in a corner and be so ashamed. Everybody was praying for them the first time they ran away. People all over the country was praying for them because they thought that they were abducted by human traffickers. They were at that age of 14, which is what the traffickers love, right? When they were found, and I understood that they were at their mom, right? I stuffed those feelings down of rejection because I understood that every child wants to be with their mother. I understand that they too had unresolved trauma from being taken away from their parents, right? And being put in foster care and having to be adopted by this new family. So I stuffed my rejection down, and I stuffed all those feelings down, and all the shame, the fact they were running away. They ran away several times. That was just the first one I was telling you about. But years later, I started being angry. And I am not an angry person. I am a ball of sunshine. You can probably pick that up. So I went to see a therapist and wanted to know where this anger was coming from. And she told me that I was stuffing down my issues and it started coming back up. So maybe for you, it looked like constantly being in survival mode, always being strong for someone else, people pleasing, big one, right? But quietly overwhelmed on the inside. Maybe it showed up in your relationships, your health, your peace, whatever it looked like, you learned to survive. But in this series, we're going to show you to learn how to heal. We're going to show you how to get that stuff out of your tissues. So, over the next few weeks, I'm going to be bringing you powerful conversations with experts who will help you decode the stress signals in your body with Dr. Truppi Gokani. Reclaim your voice and break your silence. Anu Verma, founder of Victims to Victor, is going to share her personal story of surviving childhood sexual abuse. And now she herself is a complex trauma recovery coach. So she's going to help you how to recover. Understand the science behind mental health and trauma with Dr. Keaton Handem. Exploring new emerging healing tools for trauma like modern psychedelics with Jill Dolce. And most importantly, we're going to teach you how to learn practical ways to rewire your brain in everyday life with Dr. Sanjeev Goel. Because healing isn't just about awareness, it's about integration. So, the reframe here is I want you to hear clearly that your triggers are not your enemy, that your body is not broken, that your past does not disqualify you from peace, and that your body is trying to protect you when it's holding your issues in your tissues. But now it is time to heal, right? It is safe to heal. And I want to share something new that I just learned, right? I watched the Matthew Perry, that's the guy from Friends, Chandler Bing on Friends documentary. And something he said in one of the interviews in that documentary stayed with me. I would wake up thinking about it. It was on my mind constantly. And he said that he was making $1 million a week. And the joy of being on Friends only lasted for about 8 months. And then he was suffering again. That series lasted for 10 years. So he was only happy for the first 8 months. It's like when you get a new car, you're only happy for a little bit, or this nice new house, or this nice new man, or this nice new marriage, right? If you are suffering internally, your pain is going to find a way to come back because the newness of whatever you got is going to wear off. So, but $1 million a week? Come on, that's a lot of money. They're saying that, money buys a lot of things, but obviously it didn't buy him joy, it didn't buy him peace. So I was curious. So I wanted to read his story. So I bought the book and I started reading it just today. And it starts off powerful. And that's what I like about books. Books need to grab you from the first sentence. But anyway, he started off, by talking about the time that he almost died. You guys can pick it up. But where I want to get to is that he also shared a story of his parents divorced when he was young, And his mom was living in Canada, Toronto, and his dad was living in LA. And at 5 years old, think about it, 5 years old, they decide to put him on a plane alone, his mother did, to go visit his father. And he was talking about how he had this sign around his neck, unaccompanied minor, and how he felt that he was abandoned. And he probably was abandoned. And that trauma of being on a plane, scared to death of being in the air. He thought that every minute, any minute now, that he was going to drop 35,000 feet into the ground. A lot of people that are afraid of flying has this fear. But he says he spent a lot of money in therapist's office, maybe $100,000 or more, trying to get over that feeling that he recorded in his nervous system when he was 5 years old, right? Unfortunately, right, Matthew Perry did not learn to resolve his feelings. He died at 52, and this book was written when he was 52. So just months after he wrote this book, he died. And what did he die of? Ketamine overdose. Because in the book, the little small part that I've read so far, he talked about being alcohol addiction and then pills and drugs. And what was he doing with these pills and drugs? Trying to feel better, trying to mask the pain. This was just his first trauma, but I'm pretty sure he had many more. And I'm going to be doing an episode in the next couple of weeks about the 4 types of childhood traumas. And one of them is abandonment. So look out for that. But what we want you to do is you've got to transform that trauma into something positive. You know, I love Sadhguru book about inner engineering. You've got to find out what's going on inside of you. What is your engineering? What is the issues in your tissues, how it got there, and understanding that how it got there, and you can, masking it with alcohol and drugs and smoking and all those things keeps it there. Just satiates it for a minute until you need the next hit. So, Transformers, this message to you is if you want to live, right, you have to transform your trauma and your pain into something else. You know the movie Transformers. You can transform into anything. Just pick something, something that's good for you. All right. So, as we conclude, whether you're on the beginning of your healing journey or you've been doing the work but still feel stuck, this series is for you because we're not just talking about what happened to you, we're talking about transformation, how to transform your pain, your garbage, your trauma into flowers, the one that look nice and smell nice and make everyone feel good. So, if this series seems like something that you're excited to consume, I want you to do 2 things. First, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode in this series. And second, share it with someone who needs to understand that healing is possible. Because the more we talk about this, the more we normalize this. So then we normalize your healing. And make sure you're tuning into the next episode where we start by decoding your stress and understanding what your body is trying to tell you all along. So, Transformers, until next time, keep transforming your mind because your body remembers, but it can also release. Until next time, namaste.